The Ebola virus that causes the devastating outbreak in West Africa did not even have a name just 38 years ago when it first surfaced and caused a mysterious illness among villagers in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. After exploring several options, a group of scientists named the disease after a Congolese river Ebola, so Ebola joined the list of viruses named after rivers. Fears of the virus turning airborne have risen. The threat of the virus becoming airborne has been considered a theoretical possibility, but quite unlikely in spite of the ability of viruses to mutate. The HIV virus is noted to have a high rate of mutation, yet it has never gone airborne. Experts have denied that possibility of the virus ever mutating to become airborne. According to the World Health Organization (WHO) and the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Ebola is a highly infectious, usually fatal virus that leads to flu-like symptoms and severe internal bleeding. It is also characterized by fever, intense weakness, muscle pain, headache, and sore throat. These are followed by vomiting, diarrhea, rash, impaired kidney and liver function. More so, even though this very infectious virus has caused 3 African countries to be declared unfit for travel and tourism, namely Liberia, Guinea and Sierra Leone, the cause of the disease is still quite uncertain. Speculations range that the virus is being brought to the regions by healthcare workers and then to bats being the host of the deadly disease. Conspiracy theorists have advanced the idea that the disease is patented and is therefore a biological weapon being used by the elite in their depopulation program in the Third World. There were even reports that the New World Order had engineered Ebola in order to impose quarantines, travel bans and eventually martial law. It has even been suggested that the Department of Defense created Ebola in a military lab to loose on the world as the Malthusian device to reduce the population. Additionally, conspiracy theories often offer shadow explanations for distressing or confusing events. They are typically dismissed as a destructive mix of lies and nonsense, but they often reflect the fears of the masses of the people and are therefore important in the narrative concerning Ebola. The notion, therefore, is that health officials are conspiring with the big pharmaceutical companies to consciously spread and then cure Ebola as a profit-making venture has been seriously publicized. The justification for this theory is that the countries hit hardest by the Ebola outbreak are all in Africa. Furthermore, AFRICOM is the United States Africa Command. It is one of 9 unified combatant commands of the United States Armed Forces. Its headquarters is at Kelly Barracks, Stuttgart, Germany. AFRICOM represents America's largest military presence on the ground in Africa. AFRICOM was formed in 2007 to consolidate U.S. military operations on the African continent, which had previously been under 3 separate commands. AFRICOM has grown in both scope and capacity since then. It is responsible for U.S. military operations and military relations with 53 African nations, an area of responsibility covering all of Africa except Egypt, which is within the area of responsibility of the United States Central Command. Task Force 60 will normally be the commander of Naval Task Force Europe and Africa, but the conspiracy theorists believe that its second most important objective is to hide Washington's actual intentions behind a humanitarian mask. They think that AFRICOM's primary project is to transform the militaries of the continent into dependencies and pawns of U.S. foreign policy. In this, they are suggesting that the CIA's activities in Africa go hand in hand with the huge U.S. military offensive on the African continent. When President Obama announced an expanded U.S. response to the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, this intensified the accusations of a systematic U.S. imperative to recolonize Africa through the use of biological weapons like Ebola and HIV/AIDS. Furthermore, it has been questioned as to why the outbreaks are in African countries that are rich in mineral and oil reserves. The virus has been said to kill Africans, yet the statistics reveal that those that die are predominantly black Africans. In conclusion, because Ebola raises so many unanswered questions and encourages conjecture, all theories must be considered as legitimate until more conclusive facts are surfaced.